All right, today we are diving into one of the most famous, most influential, and honestly, one of the most challenging moral teachings in all of history, the Sermon on the Mount. Let's get right into it.
I mean, it's a huge question, right? It's something that has echoed down through the ages. Philosophers, leaders, you, me, we've all wrestled with it. And it turns out one of the most radical, most counterintuitive answers is found in this very sermon, delivered on a hillside 2,000 years ago.
Okay, so the first thing you've got to understand is that this isn't just a new set of rules to follow. Think of it more like a blueprint for a total inner transformation, a complete change in our values, our motivations, and the actual condition of our hearts. So, to really get our heads around this, we're going to walk through four big themes. We'll explore what's often called the upside down kingdom. We'll see how this teaching goes way deeper than just the law. We'll look at the call for secret devotion, and we'll end with the ultimate choice, what you're building your life's foundation on. So the sermon just jumps right in with a series of pretty startling declarations known as the Beatitudes. And right from the get-go, they establish this value system that turns everything our world tells us about success and happiness completely on its head. So what in the world is a beatitude? Well, the word comes from the Latin beatus, which is connected to the Greek word makarios. And it doesn't just mean feeling happy for a second. No, this implies a profound, a deep-rooted kind of joy that comes from a particular way of being, a whole attitude towards life. And this slide just perfectly illustrates that clash of kingdoms. Conventional wisdom tells us happiness is found in power, in success, in being totally self-sufficient. But the sermon says no. True, deep joy is found in meekness, in having this hunger for what is right, and in recognizing your spiritual poverty, your need for something bigger than yourself. And I love this reframing of a word like meekness. The source material explains that the original Greek word, praus, it actually brings to mind this image of a powerful stallion. It's full of strength, but it's been harnessed, it's under control. So this isn't about being a doormat. It's about having strength and choosing to be gentle and patient and selfless with it. Okay, so after establishing this whole new value system, the sermon pivots. It moves from what makes a person blessed to what makes a person truly righteous. And the focus shifts from our external actions to our internal motivations. It's all about the heart. Now, Jesus makes it super clear he isn't here to just throw out the old law. Instead, he says he's here to fulfill it. And what that means is he's here to complete its original purpose, to show that the law was never just about behavior. It was always pointing to something deeper, a principle rooted in love. And here's how that actually plays out. You've got the law, which prohibits the act of murder. Jesus comes along and traces that act all the way back to its source, unchecked anger and contempt in your heart. The law prohibits the act of adultery. Jesus traces that back to its source, lustful intent. The focus just radically shifts from what you do to what you desire. So the crucial insight here, the big takeaway, is that true righteousness isn't about perfectly managing your external behavior while your inner world is just a chaotic mess. It's about tending to the garden of your heart because, well, everything else grows from there. This internal focus then gets applied to some of the most visible acts of religious life. Giving to the needy, praying, fasting. The sermon asks this really piercing question, why are you doing these things? What's your motivation? The teaching basically draws this super sharp line in the sand between two different ways of practicing your faith. On one side, you've got public performance. The motivation is to be seen and praised. And the reward? It's temporary, just human applause. But on the other side, you have secret devotion, motivated by a real desire to connect with God. And that offers a completely different kind of reward. And this principle gets really practical really fast. When you give, do it so quietly that your left hand doesn't even know what your right hand is doing. When you pray, don't stand on the street corner to put on a show. Find a private room. When you fast, don't advertise it with a gloomy face. It's all about authenticity over applause. So, all of this, these upside-down values, this intense focus on the heart, it all leads to this incredibly powerful conclusion. The sermon boils everything down to a few final dramatic choices that really determine the very foundation of our lives. First up, the choice of your master. You can't serve both God and money. The text makes it clear that wherever you invest your treasure, your time, your energy, your resources, that's where your heart is going to end up. And one path leads to trust, while the other leads straight to anxiety. And that really gets to the emotional core of this choice, doesn't it? The sermon directly links a life of constant worry about food, drink, clothes, to serving earthly treasures. And in contrast, it presents a life of trust, one that's centered on the belief that if you seek the right things first, your essential needs will be met.
And then the sermon just lands on this unforgettable metaphor. Everyone, it says, builds their life on one of two foundations. The wise person hears these radical teachings and, this is the crucial part, they put them into practice. Their life is built on solid rock. The foolish person hears the exact same words but just ignores them. And they build their life on sand. Now, the key point is this. The storm is coming for everyone. And when it hits, the only thing that matters is your foundation.
And so, the sermon leaves us all with this final, echoing question. It's not just about what you believe or what you admire, but what you actually do. It challenges every single one of us to take a hard look at our own lives and ask, when the rains come down and the winds start to blow, what foundation are we truly, really building on?